From the outside, it looks like a normal life. But if you're living with undiagnosed ADHD, it hasn't felt normal for a long time. You keep thinking, this is the year I get it together, only for everything to fall apart again. Different school, different job, different relationship. And every time it goes off the rails, it's just more proof that there's something wrong with you. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40 plus, you're an adult and you've been wondering, does it have to be so hard? I've diagnosed thousands of adults with ADHD over the years. So today, let's break down what the trajectory of an undiagnosed adult actually looks like so you can make sense of this. The problem is, when it comes to ADHD, you go online and the list of symptoms are confusing. Difficulty focusing. Doesn't everybody struggle with that? Forgetfulness and absent-mindedness. What's the line between something that is part of the universal human experience and something that's worth taking a medication for? Let's break this down chronologically so you can take this information and apply it to your life story and ask yourself, does this make sense? First up, we gotta cover the basics. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, meaning it doesn't show up at birth. The official cutoff is 12 years old, meaning symptoms are gonna show up before the age of 12. That means if you're an adult, your brain is done cooking. No matter how or when your brain got like that, it's the brain you now have. The question is, how do we know if you have an ADHD brain? As I break down these situations and circumstances, every time you hear this sound, that means it's a sign you have ADHD. It's not a symptom of ADHD, but the evidence to support that you have an accurate diagnosis just went way up. The more times you hear this sound, the more likely it's going to be that what you're dealing with is ADHD and not part of the human universal experience. Now let's talk about that family history. Has anyone in your family been diagnosed with ADHD or autism? Do any of your family members constantly walk around in circles looking for their keys, wallet, or cell phone? If you said yes to any of those questions, that's a sign. When it comes to medical history, we're just gonna go rapid fire. Were you born prematurely? Were you late on any of those developmental milestones? Did you play sports as a kid and ever get your head smacked? If yes to any of those things, that's a sign. It's time to talk about that stimulation gap. This is how I need you to think about your life story. The ADHD brain doesn't make enough dopamine. So someone with ADHD is going to be much more reliant on their environment for external stimulation. And here's the thing about stimulation. It never lasts. So even though you can actually pay attention and won't fall asleep in a high stimulation environment, that doesn't mean you're just going to be stimulated by that environment all the time. Your sources of stimulation change. You're going to need to switch it up and give your brain some novelty from time to time. Moving on to educational milestones. Did you learn to read and or write on time? If you had any trouble in this area, that's a sign. But this is where it gets pretty interesting. Was it easy for you and did everything come natural? If you said yes, that's a sign. We all know what those stereotypical childhood presentations look like. And oftentimes I hear my undiagnosed adult patients say, the teachers were concerned, but nothing came of it. We've got another sign. But if you remember just effortlessly showing up and able to get it done without even trying, that's a sign. If you were able to make the grade through science fairs, book reports, and all the other boring things you had to do in school, just remember, there's going to be a trade-off somewhere. So let's talk about those trade-offs. Exercise is the number one way someone with ADHD is going to be able to compensate without medication. It is not uncommon for me to talk to an undiagnosed adult that played every sport all the time, all the way through their education. If that was you, I'm really interested in knowing how adulthood goes. Many patients with ADHD absolutely tank when they get to college. They may switch their majors 5 times. They may need to actually stop and think about what they're doing without phoning it in, and then flunk out. This is usually where rubber hits the road and young people crash out with undiagnosed ADHD. But people do make it through. Maybe there was a very specific area of focus that they went to school for. This is especially going to be true for my patients on the autism spectrum. And maybe, just maybe, someone gave them an ADHD medication to help them study or in a recreational setting. And while I'm hopeful these conversations can change the culture around these choices, I gotta be real. It happens. And if it happened to you and you felt calm, it doesn't just do that for everybody. And that's gonna be another. Moving right along to the 20s, 30s, and 40 plus. This is where some of the signs are probably going to surprise you. What type of careers do people with undiagnosed ADHD get into? Intense jobs, working in the ER, jobs that keep you moving like a cook or a construction worker. I've had undiagnosed patients who are surgeons, lawyers, doctors, successful business owners, CEOs. On the surface, if you're just listening to their life story, you're like, how is that even possible? But then you hear the underlying things. How many times have they packed everything up and moved? Have there been any substance abuse patterns? Do they struggle with binge eating? Now let's talk about coping mechanisms, because everyone develops them. Different people gravitate toward different sources of stimulation. Sometimes people lean into exercise, as in exercise is everything all the time. It's pretty extreme. Job changes every 2 to 3 years. Multiple divorces or relationship chaos. Car accidents, more than your fair share. Let's not forget about those hobbies that you get into for about a month. Then you get your high octane careers. Helicopter pilot, emergency first responder. And then we got the white knucklers. If you made it to your 40s or 50s with undiagnosed ADHD, I'm gonna bet your knuckles are pretty white, gripping onto a to-do list or some sort of system that is literally built for your survival. And here's what I have to say about substance abuse. If you're in recovery, you may be a great candidate for ADHD medication. Some of the biggest success stories are patients in recovery. Time for the rapid fire round. How many of these sound familiar? Do you constantly find personal objects in random places, like your phone in the refrigerator? Do you hide things in really good spots so you won't lose them and then forget where you put them? Have you ever driven away with something on the roof of your car? Do you mix your kids' names up with the family pet? Have you developed extremely convoluted solutions for avoiding the boredom of doing laundry? Here's the thing about all of this. When you're looking back at your life, it might look like a series of random, isolated struggles, different phases, things you figured out. But when you understand the stimulation gap and the need for novelty, the full picture starts to emerge. Now here's the good news. Those job changes, they weren't failure. You were doing what you needed, and what you needed was stimulation. Those relationship patterns, they're not character flaws. Your brain was seeking intensity, and the substance abuse wasn't weakness. You were closing the gap in the only way you knew how. This is chronic. It's your whole life. It's all you've ever known. So it's natural to assume it's like this for everybody. But now, if you can see the pattern, the question remains, does it need to stay this hard? If you heard more than 5 dings in this video, it's time to talk to a provider. And if you're wondering what happens after diagnosis, you're gonna wanna check out my habit formation protocol. I got that for you right here. And before I go, drop a comment. How many dings did you hear? And go ahead and hit subscribe if you want to keep receiving practical strategies from a nurse practitioner who won't sell you short.